If you retired with $1 million, how long would it last? Say you're 65 years old, you have $1 million, and you're done working, no more income. You're going to make that last for as long as you can. Where would you move to? Which state? That's what we're going to talk about today. How long will 1 million last in every state? Let me bring in my co-host, Tony Shore. Tony, welcome to the show. For those that are watching, I'm going to put the link right down below. I know, Tony, you haven't seen this yet.
No, I did not look. I did not look at the article today. My show prep is lacking for today, but I love the topic. In fact, I saw Willie Nelson on the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame thing, and he's 90 years old, and he looks like he's going strong, right? I mean, he sang, he played a guitar solo, he was talking, laughing, and I'm like, if this guy's up there doing this at 90, he's probably going to live to at least 100. How much would he have needed? Could he have made it on $1 million to 100? That's a good question to ask. I mean, he didn't have to worry about it, but
it depends on what state he's residing in, I guess.
Oh, really? Wow.
That's what the link will be to those watching. It's GoBankingRates.com. They have this. They came out in early January 2024 with this. It's basically asking how long, for someone that's 65 and older, how long will $1 million last, depending on what state they live in. So,
and depending on how long they live, obviously.
No, this is how long the money will last. And
I see. How many years?
Yeah. I don't even know if I want to continue because I'm so upset with this analysis. So I might not even continue this conversation because it's so flawed. But let me just give you the methodology so we know where we're coming from.
So we already know you disagree with this study.
Well, it's not even. It's just a mathematical formula, and I hate it. But I'll give it some time and some energy so that people will learn from it, perhaps. But basically, what they did is they take the national average annual expenditures for 65-year-olds and older. They take the national average. Then they multiply it by a state cost of living index score that they have. And these are put out by the federal government, these numbers. So the numbers are good, but they take the national average, they manipulate it so that it's more relevant per state. And then they divide that into $1 million and see how many years it'll last. So already I hate the premise that you have $1 million of which to live. But let's just continue. All right, before I get into my rant, Tony, I'm going to ask you, what state do you think you'll run out of that $1 million first if you happen to retire at 65 and live in a state, any state in the U.S. or the District of Columbia? So there's 51 choices. Where do you think your money would run out the quickest?
I would think it would be California, New York, or Arizona. Those I think would be the top three.
You got 2 out of 3. No, you didn't. You got 1 out of 3.
Oh, Hawaii. I forget. I always forget about Hawaii. Didn't you say continental U.S.? I'm almost positive.
Says the man from Southern Canada. You know, the Hawaii is always number one in terms of running out of money because it's so expensive.
Yeah.
But look at this. It would last 10 years, 3 months, and 22 days.
Wow.
$1 million.
And my grandfather lived to 101, so he wouldn't have made it in Hawaii with $1 million.
Now, if he retired at 65, he would be out of money at 75, according to this, which is totally inaccurate. But I just want to play along a little bit.
Okay.
So what are the top 3? You said California, Nevada. No, you said
Arizona and New York.
And New York. Top 3 are Hawaii for 10 years running out. Massachusetts, 12 years you run out. And California, 13 years.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And my wife's from Massachusetts, and my in-laws are living and retired in Massachusetts. They're approaching 80s now. So theoretically, they should be out of money, and they certainly didn't start with $1 million. So
how are they not out of money according to this?
Yeah, good question. Okay. So, all right. We know this. Highest cost of living states: Hawaii, Massachusetts, California for 65 and up. Where do you think your money would last the longest, Tony?
Wow, I would say South Dakota, North Dakota. Oh,
Mississippi.
Mississippi, southern state. I should have started with Arkansas and Mississippi. Yeah.
22 years, 8 months, 12 days in Mississippi. More than double
Wow.
Hawaii. The top three, lowest cost state, 22 years your money would last in all three: Mississippi, Oklahoma, Alabama. So what are we learning here? That cost of living means you'll spend more money quickly, right? And it's good to know. It's good to know. If you're thinking, where do I retire? Maybe I'll think twice about Hawaii versus Alabama, because it's a lot more expensive, twice as expensive, perhaps. But when it comes to retirement planning, which is what this show is about, and what this studies, or this not study, this presentation of data from Go Banking, whatever, is trying to explain, is, you should factor in what the cost of living. But if you're thinking, well, where am I going to live? I need $1 million. Again, these shows, I need $1 million. I know the headlines. You need $1.9 million to retire. What a load of malarkey. So you don't. I did a show on this. We did a show, Tony. You and I. We did a show on how much you need to live. I think it was.
Yep.
And I spent 10 minutes, 20 minutes bashing that. But here's the deal. Here's where the flaws are with this. It doesn't factor in your income. What if you have investment income? It doesn't invest any of the money. It gives you $1 million and spends it down, divided by whatever. So if you put $1 million in the bank under the pillow in Hawaii, you'll be out in 10 years. Of course. But what about interest that you would get on that money, that million?
Yeah. So that's assuming So this whole premise is assuming zero growth.
Zero growth, zero investment, zero interest, zero Social Security, zero income.
Yeah. I mean, if you just threw it in a bank account or a CD, you could get at least 3% probably. I mean,
right. You could get 5-6% now in 2024, early 2024. But they're not. They're just trying to show you, if you just put $1 million and had $1 million and you didn't do anything with it, you just took it out, you'd be out in 10 years in Hawaii. But no one lives that way. People invest. People put it in the bank. People grow. Now, some people invest it and lose, right? So, but also people have Social Security, pensions, other forms of income. So the cost of living might be high in Hawaii, but you're not going to just. If you're going to retire to Hawaii at age 65, you're not going to, and you're not going to turn on Social Security ever. That's what this is saying.
Yeah. Wow.
The only value for this is really to know the cost of living, because it doesn't factor in income, which is where you would spend most of your, what you would fill that cost of living with, your Social Security. And it doesn't factor in lifestyle changes. If you have $1 million and in 5 years later you're down to 500,000 in Hawaii, you'd start to question what you're doing with yourself. I would hope, right? Most people would say, "This isn't working. I'm going to be out of money in 5 more years at this rate. Let me make some lifestyle changes." Right? Let me start turning on Social Security instead of not. Let me invest this money. Let me get some interest. Right. So while it was useful in terms of showing the different cost of living in different parts of the country for 65-year-olds and older, that's kind of where it ends. That's where the knowledge ends. So
it's like, cost of living is much higher in these states. They could have just shown what the cost of living was in each state and been done with it. The whole $1 million thing is just a hook to draw people in.
Right. How long will $1 million last? 10 years in Hawaii.
Yeah.
Versus guess 22 in Alabama.
Yeah. Well, guess what? Mississippi. Well, guess what, Dan? If I had to, I would take living just 10 years in Hawaii versus 22 in Mississippi.
What you do is you retire at 65, move to Hawaii for 8 years, and then move to Mississippi for the rest. Right?
Yeah.
So you get out the good years when you're young and healthy in the beautiful weather.
There you go.
Under palm trees, and then move to Mississippi and let your dollar go a little bit further.
Be a tough move.
Where do you think Minnesota is?
Minnesota's probably in the middle.
So the worst is Hawaii at 10 years. Let me scroll down. So these get New Hampshire, Vermont,
New York was up
Maine.
there.
Yeah, New York is up there. Washington, New Jersey, Rhode Island, Arizona, Delaware, Montana, Utah. Well, look at this. Florida, 18 years, 4 months, 7 days.
Hmm.
The annual average expenditure is $54,500. Let's scroll down. Minnesota's cheaper. 20 years, 2 months. Did you get 20 years, 2 months on $1 million in Minnesota?
Yeah, it depends on where you live in Minnesota. I mean, you could live in Worthington for that, but you couldn't live in the Twin Cities for that. That's the thing too. I mean, they're doing a statewide average. That's why New York isn't number one, because they're doing a statewide average. If they did, the metropolitan area in New York.
Right, like New York's huge.
I mean,
you can live in upstate versus New York City versus Long Island. Twin Cities versus Worthington.
Yeah. In New York, you could live in Elam, or you could live in New York City.
Yeah. So again, but this is the average and the state.
Right.
And so what is it telling us? I don't think it tells us much, really. It's just a sensational headline that wastes a lot of people's time. But what happens is, well, you think about it. You can get 20 years in Minnesota. Here's something useful. Let's say you do spend the average, which they said was 50,000. That's also for a single person. Is it double for two people? No, because housing is shared, transportation is shared. So anyway, it's useful in terms of, well, think about this. If I had $1 million, I could live for 20 years off of that million under the pillow in Minnesota. Throw in Social Security or a pension and throw in just common sense, maybe getting 3% on a CD. All of a sudden, you're like, I'm not going to run out of money. So do you really need $1 million? Going back to that other show we did. No, you don't. There's no magic number. Depends on what you're spending. The new headlines I see all the time, and you watching this, you probably see them too. I have 500,000, 63. Can I retire? I have 700,000, 48. Can I retire? The answer is always yes. If you could say, I have 30,000 in the bank, can I retire? Yeah, you can. Now, you may not live the retirement dream, but what if you have a pension for 50,000 and Social Security for another 50 and you're sitting on 100,000 as a family? Like, what? Can you retire? Yeah. No, I can't. I spend 300,000. Yes, I can. I spend 40,000 a year. It's useless. This nonsense. So I don't know why people do it. I know why they do it. They want people to click it. And how long have I been sitting on that website getting them clicks and stuff like that?
Yeah.
So I guess it works. There's something that I don't know about.
Yeah. It's clickbait.
Who pays for clicks anymore? There was a bunch of pop-up ads on that website that bothered me too, which I thought that this isn't 99 or 2005 pets.com stuff. All right. So conclusion, Tony, you got to know the cost of living where you retire, right? You can't be in the Twin Cities saying, I'm going to go retire to, LA, right? Or I'm going to go retire to where do you want to retire? You want to retire in Key West.
Yeah.
Do you know the cost of living in Key West?
I know it's outrageous and I'll never retire there, but
it's probably higher than Florida.
Oh,
right?
Much higher. Yeah.
Generally speaking.
Yeah.
So it's good to know that.
Yeah.
But the cost of living isn't as important as, or the assets, I should say, the $1 million isn't as important as your income. So you got to factor in Social Security, you got to factor in pension, you got to factor in investment income, dividends, capital gains. All these things are part of retirement planning. This cost of living thing is a very small little number. So don't fall victim to getting scared by this stuff. That's the conclusion. Yeah.
Exactly. And I think it's, it is interesting. You always see those headlines. How much do you need to retire? And the real answer is it depends, but it is good to know, like your conclusion is good. It's good to know which states have a lower cost of living when you're thinking about retiring. You have to take into account those factors.
Right. Because your dollar is where's my dollar going to go furthest? That's the conclusion, really. But who knows? Who knows? All right, maybe Mississippi is the number one, but maybe you don't know what anybody in Mississippi.
But do you want to live there? That's my question.
Maybe you don't want to live there. Right. All right. Maybe Hawaii is the worst for your dollar, but maybe you that's where you're from, or your family's there, and that's what, like, so I don't know. I thought it would be interesting to do because I see a lot of people ask online, and they click on these headlines, and then they look at what the top headlines or articles on different business websites are, and it's always these, can I retire on $1 million, or how far will $1 million? Everyone wants to know, like, how long will $1 million last? What do I need? And then what happens is they see that and they say, oh my God, I'll be out in 10 years if I move to Hawaii. All right, I'm not moving to Hawaii, but I'm going to stay in Minnesota. I'm only going to last 20 years, but what if I live longer than that? Grandpa Bob lived to 101. Then they get scared, and then they get depressed, and then they don't retire, and then everyone's happy except them, right? So don't fall victim to this. You can retire on a lot less than you think, but you just got to do the math.
But you need a retirement income planner. You need to work with a financial professional.
That's it.
That'll help you make it. That's the key right there. And I'm not going to name names, Dan Wendell, but I know a guy that could help you.
Yeah. And I'm not going to use this cost of living data much more than just, hey, how much are you spending, where are you going to live, that kind of thing. Right. It's part of the conversation, but it's not nearly as important as this article made it out to be, or as people think it is. So thanks for a good show, Tony. And stay away from these sensational headlines. We'll catch everyone in a week.
All matters discussed in today's show are for informational purposes only.
This show is not investment advice.
Dan Wendell nor Dolphin Financial Group are affiliated or endorsed by any government agency.
Investment advisory services are offered through Dolphin Wealth Management, Inc., a registered investment advisor in the state of Florida.
Insurance products and services are offered through Dolphin Insurance, Inc.
Dolphin Wealth Management, Inc. and Dolphin Insurance, Inc. are affiliated companies doing businesses as Dolphin Financial Group.
You should talk to someone at Dolphin Financial Group before implementing any of these strategies or ideas.